Hello guys, in this video I'll walk you through the process which enables you to collect React UI code coverage from your Cypress end-to-end test. Yes, you heard it right. End-to-end test code coverage is pretty uncommon, and so this gives you one more chance to fall in love with Cypress. Now, short explanation for people who don't know what code coverage is. Guys, code coverage is a software testing matrix that determines the number of lines of code that is successfully validated under a test procedure. Now, which in turn helps in analyzing how comprehensively a software is verified. For developers, this matrix can help in dead code detection and elimination. On the other hand, for QA, it can help to check missed or uncovered test cases. Now they can track the health status and quality of the source code while paying more heed to the uncaptured parts of the code. Now code coverage results will show you which line of code, which code branch, if else for example, and which procedure or function were called by your test. So for example, I open this particular folder. Inside that, these are the 3 React files that I have created. Okay. Now in here you could see we have the coverage for the statements, branch, functions, lines, and this is all 100% as you could see. Okay, which is great. And I go to another folder, you see the same in here. So this is what we want to generate now using Cypress end-to-end test. Okay. Now, code coverage basically is used within unit tests to measure the quality of your test, right? In some project, in fact, the goal is to have a predefined minimum code coverage requirement. For example, 80% of all lines, okay, to ensure you are releasing a quality software, okay? Now, to implement code coverage, your code is normally instrumented before the test execution. High level, technically speaking, for every line, method, and branch of your code, additional code is added by the instrument tool, which is recognizing the call. Now, next step is to run your end-to-end test using Cypress to exercise this instrumented code. Now, please note that instrumented code is relatively slower, and hence you must develop an appropriate execution strategy. For example, when to test, where to test, how frequently to test, etc. Now, all the code and configuration I talk about in this video would be there in this GitHub repo, guys. So yeah, it's time to dive into the demo. Now this is a 2-steps process. We have to instrument the React application UI code first using @cypress/instrument-CRA module. Now this is a module for CRA applications to instrument code without ejecting scripts. Let's go over its documentation once and follow the instructions. Step number 1, you have to install this. Okay, so you can use either yarn or npm. So you say npm i-d and the name of the module. Once this is done, you have to open your package.json and you have to require this module. Okay, this module assumes standard create React app version 3 JavaScript application with source files in the source folder. Okay, now that is the case with the example that I've developed. So you have this source folder. Inside these you have all the source file. Okay, so all these files would be instrumented by this module in your package.json, like I said, and it's there in the documentation. This is what you have to do, and then you have to start your application using npm start. Once you do so, guys, this application would be launched in the local host at port number 3000. Okay, you see this. Now what you can do now is to verify that your code is instrumented. You have to say window, you can also say this, okay, and then you will find this new object now, okay, coverage. You hit enter and you see this object, you expand this and you see all the files that are there inside the source folder. And that's the very reason, you know, since it instruments all of these files within the source folder, right, you will see some slowness. Okay, now I have the same version of this application deployed to Netlify and this code is not instrumented. So if you open this, okay, go to the console and again you say window and underscore coverage, you get undefined. Okay, so I hope it is clear that you require the development code, and for practice purpose you already have this repository which I talked about, so you can just download this, okay, and follow the steps as it is, which are mentioned in the readme file in here. Okay, under the hood, guys, this particular module, this through which we instrumented our UI code, right, uses Istanbul NYC, now which basically instruments ES5 and ES2005 plus JavaScript code with line counters, so that we can track how well our unit test exercises the code base. You now start interacting with the application, okay, and you will see that these counters will start getting updated. As you could see, these are the different statement, function, branch. As I said, of interacting with this manually, we are going to interact with the help of Cypress tool. Okay, so it's time to add the second module, which is add Cypress code coverage. Okay, again, let's follow the instructions. It says npm i-t Cypress code coverage. You install that. Okay, once this is done, guys, you have to open Cypress support index.js. You have to add the following line. Okay, I have already done that, so I open Cypress support index.js, and you already see this imported in here. Okay, the other place where you have to do is in the plugin index.js. You have to add this particular thing in the module.exports. Okay, this is the only piece that you have to configure, and now you are ready to execute your Cypress test cases, and that will provide you the coverage report. Okay, so the second module saves the code coverage collected during the Cypress test. Right, guys, I've created some test cases inside the integration folder. So I'm going to execute this first test case, then I'm going to move these two test cases from this test folder to this integration folder and see if that enhances the code coverage. Okay, and this is the report folder. Okay, so to start with, we are going to delete these. Okay, so I'm going to delete this NYC output and the coverage. Okay, so deleted. All right, so we do not see those things in here. All right, our application. Okay, so talking about application, so what does it do? All right, so we say we can add some in here. All right, this is how you can add a to-do. You can cancel a to-do. What you can also do is you don't add any value, click on submit, then you get this alert. All right, you add something and you can mark it as complete like so, and then this is you striken out, so you can also do that. The other thing that I've implemented is, for example, you refresh this browser, okay, the value stays in here. Okay, why so? Because in the local storage I am creating a key which contains this particular value, as you could see. Okay, completed true and task is equal to this. So when you refresh or create a new page or create a new session, you still see these values. Okay, right, all set. So this is what we are going to generate towards the end. So let's get started. So I have opened another terminal, and we are going to now say in the package.json for running the test cases in the headless mode, we have to use cy.run. So we say npm run cy:\run. That's the name of the script. I execute that, and it is going to find one file and going to run all the test cases inside that. So what are we having in that particular file? Let's see that. Okay, so we go to this create to do. Okay, so we are creating the to-dos. We are checking for the alert if it is empty. Okay, we are also checking that when we add a new to do, it gets stored in the local storage. So these are the different things that we are doing. Okay, all right, so yeah, our test cases are getting executed, and all right, so we have the report being created in here. All right, so you have to open this lcov-report, and inside that you have the HTML file index.html. This is to present the data in the HTML format, but you also have this XML and JSON which you can share with the other sources to give it your report a different view, or wherever this data has to be consumed over time. I've already talked about in the performance video. So okay, all right, so I have my report. I'm gonna start this in here, right? So let's keep everything in the same browser. So I close this, all right, and I come in here and paste this thing. Okay, so what is the current coverage? 37.8 for the statements, 18.6 for the branch. Now if you want to read more about it, you open one folder, and in here you see, okay, so here you have 100%, okay, but this particular module, right, okay, the coverage is in there. So you click on this and this is what you see. Okay, so it says that handle checkbox. Okay, so we did not work on the checkbox part, and we also did not remove the to do. Okay, so these are the things that we have not done. Okay, all right, makes sense. So what I'm not gonna do is I'm gonna start moving my test from the test folder which I talked about, okay, and rerun our test cases. So inside Cypress we have this test folder. So this time we are gonna say, okay, let's move this in here. Now we have two test cases, create and delete, right? And let's re-execute our test case. And once this is done, we are going to see have we increased the coverage or not. All right, so test execution is completed, and let us open our report. So this is my previous report. I open the new report in a new tab so that I can compare. All right, so I see 46.34. In here we have 37.8. Great, so something has improved. And if you look at the SRC component, now we have achieved 100% coverage, which is great. Okay, in here it wasn't 100%. All right, so we still have few things left in the SRC. Now report web vital, guys, it's used in React to keep track of the performance of the modules and components, and service worker registration file is basically used to provide your application the PWA capabilities, like, you know, offline mode feature, meaning your application can run in the offline mode or not. All right, so now these files are ruining the coverage report. All right, now is there a way I can exclude these files? Because let's imagine these files are not yet developed. Okay, they are still into development, so I don't want to show that in my report because I have not written any test cases against these yet, right? Because it is still into development. I'm going to write my test cases once the development is complete, or I'm going to execute my test cases once the development is complete. Okay, fair enough. So that would be our next step, but first let's go over this app.js file because there are still few things that are not covered yet. For example, this set to do storage to dos. Okay, what are we doing in here, guys? Well, in here I'm saying, well, while I load my application, if there's something already there in the local storage, load the data. I showed you, right, onto my application. I have not written any test cases for this, and trust me, you know, when I looked this report, then only I realized that, okay, hey, you know, I need to write this test case as well. Though I built this application, but while writing the test cases, I forgot about the scenario completely. So this report helped me there. Now the other thing is, you know, how can I create the scenario in Cypress? Now, why is it so difficult? Because Cypress clears out the local storage between your test cases. Okay, so to prove that, in the create to do, I created two test cases. One, add a task using enter. So you type something into that input box, you hit enter, and then a new to do is created. So in here you see, to start with, I was checking in the local storage. This is an array, right, in the local storage. So length has to be 0 to start with. I then add a new to do using the enter key, for example, buy apple, and yeah, this is the paragraph, but in the local storage the length should be increased to 1. Makes sense? Great. Next I move on to the next test case. And guys, again, see, my expectation was that it should start with 0 because this is how Cypress works. Okay, then I added one more by clicking on the submit button, and still it was 1. So all my test cases were passed, as you could see in here. Okay, now how do I do that? Then I created this particular test case, and in here I said, okay, before I launch my application, I want to set something in the local storage. I did it like so. Okay, and then I launched my application, guys, and then I simply checked that there has to be one paragraph, one entry, right, loaded programmatically. Okay, this is what we are going to test now, and now you would see that we have even greater coverage now. Okay, that's one of the advantage of using code coverage with your end-to-end test. Let's wait for it to be completed, and then we are going to launch that report in a new tab again to see the differences. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, it's getting there, it's getting there. All right, third one. Okay, all done. All right, so this is also refreshed. So what we can do is we just copy this stuff. Okay, this is the file that we have to observe, so I just copy this as it is, right, and we no longer see that, so we are able to cover this. But guys, besides this, you also see that, you know, we have tested this thing 30 times, and then this line 92 times. This is another, you know, utility which you can use to say, okay, hey, why am I executing this line of code so many times? Can I drop certain test cases which are not making sense? All right, so that's how you can leverage it another way. Now guys, in here, if you could see, I have added this comment in the code. So at times while developing the application, right, we just require if block, right? We don't require the else block. So in that case, what you can do is, hey, Istanbul, ignore else. We are using Istanbul under the hood. So if you just decorate your code with this particular comment, all right, things will work. Now if I go back to this, we further have the increased coverage. Okay, so in the SRC, now we further have this. Now next step, like I said, we have to ignore these files. So let me open my documentation. Okay, and in here, since we are using the Istanbul NYC, so all you have to do is you have to say NYC, and you have to do it like so, exclude. Okay, I have already done so in the package.json, and despite of having that setting in here, guys, so exclude, you can pass a single file in the form of string, but you have multiple files that you want to ignore. Like in my case, I want to ignore all these files, exclude these files. So you have to have an array object, inside that you provide the name of all these files. So I have excluded all these, guys, but still the problem is we are seeing these files in the report. Now again, go back to the documentation. The problem is, you know, there is already a bug raised against this instrument CRA plugin, and the number is 188. It's still open. It was raised a long time back, like 10 months back. It's still open. Now meanwhile, what you can do is, and I already have a solution for that as well. So what you can do is, I have said exclude file, and you just have to say npx, okay, nyc. You have to say nyc because that's in Istanbul, and you say generate a report, okay, and the reporter has to be lcov. Okay, when you do so, okay, now you have, when you instrument things, right, everything would be instrumented, right? But when you run this command, okay, it is going to check for this nyc object, and in nyc object you have this exclude. So now from this whole result, it is going to exclude these files and then show you the report. So all you have to now do is ex file. This is the name of the script that you have to execute. And now, you know, like I've already explained pre, post, and all those scripts, so you can easily fix it according to your requirement. So all we have to do is we have to say ny this and hit enter. Now once this is done, we are going to open the same report again. All right, so I'm gonna copy this report, guys, create a new tab, paste it in here, hit enter. Now you see, so the files which you can say are in development are excluded from this report, and this is your current coverage. Okay, so this is about achieving code coverage for React applications using Cypress end-to-end test. I hope you like this. If that is the case, like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.